Here we are going to be looking into some of the OpenCV drawing functions. So OpenCV has some functions that allow us to draw figures and geometrical figures and even write texts on images. So we're going to see in this video how we can use OpenCV to draw or write text on the image. So we're going to be using two libraries in this case. One is our basic OpenCV library, which goes by the cv2 command, and we are also using NumPy. And NumPy is nothing but the mathematical library which is available in Python, and it automatically gets downloaded when you're installing OpenCV. So as long as you've installed OpenCV using the instructions we have shown, you will be able to have NumPy as well. Now we are using NumPy in order to create an image for us. So we are storing this image into a variable called img, and we are using NumPy to create a matrix for ourselves. And the matrix is of 5 by 12 by 5 by 12. So there are about 5 by 12 rows and 5 by 512 columns. And the number 3 specifies the number of channels. So the number of channels is nothing but a colored image has 3 different channels. So for example, the blue, the green color, the red color, which defines the image, is what these 3 channels are. If it's a HSV image, which is hue, saturation, and variance, this 3 would be defining the hue, the saturation, and the variance. So the 3 is specific of the channel size. And this union int is the type of image that we are creating. There are different types of images. We will go into that in a later video. But for now, this is just to help us creating an image of which is size 5 by 12 by 5 by 12. And if we just simply go ahead and run this command, it will open up a black and just black image with this size. So we'll open our command prompt and we'll call Python, and we have this function, this application in the Python file called draw.py, and we will press enter to run. So we can see this image has been formed for us, which is of size 5 by 12. So if we come down and point over, and notice this X and Y information here, and if we go into the bottom right corner of the image, you will see that it roughly points it to the 511. And if my pointer was allowed to go towards the end, it will also show 5 by 12. So it's nothing but starting with the 0 and going till 5 by 11. So which is giving you the 5 by 12 matrices, and which is the row size of 5 by 12 and the column size of 5 by 12. Now we will go back to the program and try to draw these figures. So the first figure we're going to be looking into using this circle command. So OpenCV has this function called circle that allows us to draw a circle on the image. And the image that we want to draw is the img image. So we're just passing the image file, and this is specifying the coordinate, the center coordinate, the center point of the circle. And this number is nothing but the radius of the image. So in order to define a circle in a Cartesian coordinate system, you only need the center point and the radius. As long as you have information of these two and you let OpenCV know about it, it will go ahead and draw it for you. The next bit is the color profile. So this is the BGR value, blue, green, and red. So we notice we have the green value as 255, which will draw a green colored circle on the image for us. And this particular value is defining the thickness of the image. Now by me putting -1, I am specifying to draw a full circle, which will color the inside of the circle as well with green color. Now notice there is one format which OpenCV utilizes when it's drawing these circles, or it could be the rectangle in this later function, the line, the put text, whatever drawing or addition that you're going to be adding on the OpenCV library, you are going to find a similar pattern. The pattern is OpenCV first needs the source file, the image variable that you are going to be manipulating. So you need the image variable first. Then the next bits is informing OpenCV of your content, what you want to add. In our case, in this particular case, it's the circle, and you're just specifying the properties of that circle, which goes by the center and by the radius. Once you have provided the properties, then the third stage is where you provide the color of the image that you want to add. And the fourth property is the thickness. So this is what it's difficult to remember when you see codes, but this is the main property, or this is the main pattern that OpenCV has its functions defined as. So one is the image variable, the second is the property of the image, the third is the color profile, and the fourth is the thickness. So this will help hopefully. Now let's go ahead and run this and see how our function runs. So I have this image still running, so I'll go ahead and press escape in order to close this, and we will go back and run it again. So now you should see a new image come up. So this one is still coming up as the old one, probably because I did not save this. So I need to come back here and I saved this. Notice this thing changing to X mark, which means that I have saved it. And I go back to the command prompt and I rerun this, and now we see the circle coming up. So the circle is filled because I have the -1 specified as the thickness. If I were to remove -1, and if I put down say 10 for example, and I press save, it would draw a different circle. So notice this, I'm closing this window now, and I'm opening it back again with the new function. So you can see the fill is gone, and now there is a thickness of size 10. So let's close this window and go back to our code and jump to the next function, which is the rectangle function. We'll uncomment this line and we will see the function now. So OpenCV has this rectangle function, which may make sense that it is going to draw a rectangle for us. Now, what does it need? It needs, again, the same thing, the image variable. The second stage is the property of that image, or whatever you're going to be drawing. So in our case, the rectangle can be defined by two coordinates. One is the starting coordinate. So if you think about a rectangle, the top left corner of the rectangle is this image, is this point, and the bottom right corner of the rectangle is defined by this coordinate. So I have the top left as 200 by 200 and the bottom right as 400 by 500. As long as you have these information, these 2 points, you can draw a rectangle. Once you have the property of the rectangle, you can then define the color. So in our case, we're going to be using 255 for the red value. So notice the B and the G, which is the blue and the green, are 0, and 255 is the red value, so it's going to be drawing a red rectangle for us. And we will give the -1 thickness just so it gives us a filled rectangle of red color. Let's go back to our command line and run the function. The draw.py, again, it doesn't draw because, as usual, I forgot to save the Python application. So let me close this, go back, and again save this guy. Let's go back to our command prompt, run the draw.py, and voila, it does give us the rectangle. So you can see the filled rectangle. Again, in our case, if we try to remove the thickness, and instead of -1 or 10, we just give 1, it will draw a rectangle of a very thin rectangle line. So let me close this window, let me rerun this, and you see this rectangle now, which is of a very thin thickness. Let's go back, let's close this and come back to our command application, and now we will see how to drive or draw a line. So uncomment the line function, and OpenCV has this line function which allows us to draw lines. Again, it uses the same image variable where we are drawing the image. The first or the second property of this function is the property of the line, and line can again be defined by the starting point and the ending point of the line. Once you know the starting point of the line, the ending point of the line, you're done with defining where the line is going to be drawn. The next property is the colored profile. So we are using blue as 255, green as 0, and red as 0. So this is going to be drawing a blue colored line for us. We have given a thickness of 5 just for the sake of understanding. You can put down any thickness, but the thickness of -1 will not work in case of a line, because a line is just a line. It doesn't have any fill in it. So it won't make any effect. But 5 will give a thickness of 5. Let's go back and run this. Again, as usual, I forgot to save the Python application. Well, let's save it now. Go back to a command line, rerun this, and we can see the line coming up. So this is the starting point, which is given by here, and this is the end point given here. So this is how we draw the shapes. Now let's see how we can write text on it. So OpenCV has this function which is cv put text, and it takes a couple of more arguments than the other functions. The first argument, as usual, is the img, the image variable. The second argument, the second property, is the property of the text, and it takes in about 4 instruments. So the first instrument is the text that you want to put down. In our case, we just want to put down OpenCV. The second is the starting point of that text, so where that particular text should start writing. Third would be the font that you're using. OpenCV has its own simple forms that are already there programmed in the OpenCV library, and you can use those fonts in order to write your text. Once you have this, then you're specifying the scale or how big the font should be. Once the property of the fonts are defined, you go back and give the color of the text. In our case, we have put down blue as 0, green as 255, and red as 255. Well, let's see what kind of a color it comes out to be. And the number 3 is defining the thickness of the text. Once we have all of this, and before again I forget to save, let me save it now and go back to our command prompt and run. So we can see OpenCV being written here, and it's giving it a thickness of about 3 and a font scale of 1. Let's try changing that a little bit and see how it affects. So instead of 1, let's make it a 2, and instead of 3, let's make it a thickness of maybe 1. And let's see. Let's save this back again. Let's close this original text and rerun this. So you can see that the scale has increased and the thickness has reduced. Now notice, OpenCV takes the initial coordinate. So it knows where the text needs to start, but it does not know, or it does not have any property or any function in it to whether or not to find out whether a text is going to exceed the thickness or the width of the image. So you can see OpenCV, we have lost the V, and if the text size, if you're not aware of the text size or if you don't know about the text, then you surely might have run into those issues where you might lose the text. So it's not so feasible with fonts, but in order for when you're doing image manipulations, it does help a little bit. But you need to make sure that it's only taking care of the starting point and it does not know where it's ending, so it can end out of the image as well. So with that, we come to the end of this.